if you thought the Scion of the Three Rogue was edgy, then I guess WotC decided to take that as a challenge and said, you haven't seen anything yet. Because at the time of recording, WotC just dropped a new playtest for the 2024 rule set, where we mainly got a bunch of returning subclasses and basically 2 new subclasses. The Reanimator Artificer that is basically just Dr. Frakenstein.
That's Frakenstein.
And then this new subclass for the Ranger that is so edgy in its descriptions that it kind of becomes hilarious. Legends tell that the most ancient and fearsome terrors lurk deep within the old places of the earth. Unfathomable and bloodthirsty entities of fallow soil and unsharpened claws. Hollow Wardens venerate and draw power from such beings, transforming themselves into similarly merciless, monstrous guardians that stalk along jagged coastlines, across steep mountain crags, and through other dark and wild places. I won't lie, when I first read this description, I thought WotC was basically doing their answer to the Bloodhunter class, and going for a full-blown Witcher-themed subclass for the Ranger, which, I won't lie, sounds pretty awesome. Instead, they're basically making this a Ranger who more or less has the flavor text of a Warlock. But enough of that, and let's dive into the subclass, shall we? At level 3, you gain additional spells, and truthfully, this spell list I really don't mind. Everything seems to be in theme and fits the flavor of the subclass. The next ability, however, is really going to set the overall tone for the rest of the subclass. In areas that it does really well, its themes, and of course, the biggest sticking point for the subclass, which, spoiler alert, is the biggest sticking point for the 2024 Ranger altogether. Wrath of the Wild. You draw on the strange and ancient horrors of the land for power. When you cast Hunter's Mark, you transform, gaining the following benefits for the duration of the spell. Ancient Armor. You gain a bonus to your AC equal to your Wisdom modifier. Unnerving Aura. When an enemy starts in your turn within a 10-foot emanation originating from you, it makes a Wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, it can take either an action or a bonus action on this turn, not both. Right out of the gate, those elements are not bad, providing either a bonus to AC or even a kind of debuff ability for at least a round. It's actually really fascinating and kind of fits into the theme and aesthetic of the class, that things are going around you and sapping your enemy of various abilities. That is actually pretty cool and thematically relevant. But we get to the biggest crux of the entire thing, when you cast Hunter's Mark. This just continues to reinforce the biggest issue with the 2024 Ranger, and that it is just Hunter's Mark the class. Unfortunately, this subclass really doubles down on this idea. There is no other way for this ability to be activated, and that is the ultimate downside of this subclass. And truthfully, I do think this subclass would be stronger if it wasn't connected to Hunter's Mark. Rather, if it was more like a per day or per long rest ability attached to your Wisdom modifier, because the themes and overall structure of the subclass is really solid. However, the fact that it's tied to Hunter's Mark, you're being forced to use Hunter's Mark to have any interaction with this subclass, really harms it. Level 7, Hungering Might. You gain a bonus to Constitution saving throws equal to your Wisdom modifier. In addition, once per turn, when you hit a creature with an attack roll while you are transformed using Wrath of the Wild, you regain a number of hit points equal to 1d10 plus your Wisdom modifier provided you are bloodied. Again, I like these abilities. The Wisdom portion kind of reminds me of how Bladesinger works. I also like the idea of when you hit and you're below half health, which is what the bloodied condition means, that you gain temporary hit points. These themes are really cool and really thematic and fitting, like you're shooting your bow and the shadows envelop the target, or you're up in melee and they do the same. Again, creating the really hilarious edgy image, but it's fitting, and they're sapping that energy and adapting it to yourself. But to do it, you have to cast Hunter's Mark. And yeah, this will be the last time I mention it in the overview section, but that is the part that really hampers this subclass overall, because it's great thematically, the mechanics are not overpowered, they do enough to really keep things interesting, providing some debuff and providing some benefits to yourself. So yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing, I just, you know. Level 11, Rot and Violence. Eerie Aura. When a creature fails its saving throw against your unnerving aura, it also takes necrotic, poison, or psychic damage, your choice, equal to your ranger level. Strangling Roots. When you hit a creature with an attack roll using a weapon, you can activate the sap or slow mastery weapon property in addition to different mastery properties you're using with that weapon. Once again, the eerie aura plays into what I really liked about it in Wrath of the Wild. The Pathfinder nerd in me almost said Wrath of the Righteous. But anyway, it's building on top of it, now applying damage, and not a ton of damage, mind you, but since it ignores resistance, it can still pack a punch. And the fact that you can choose between 3 different types will mean that this is always potent, especially at later levels, though poison at around a level 11 plus does start to become more common as an immunity, so not necessarily beneficial there, but again, I can take or leave it. The Strangling Roots I just think is a really cool ability that you can even mix and match weapon masteries. That's a ton of flavor, and actually I would like to see more subclasses, especially for the fighter, start to do that. That can honestly be a lot of fun to do and can lead to players feeling less pigeonholed with weapon masteries as they currently are. Level 15, Ancient Endurance. If you drop to 0 hit points while transforming using Wrath of the... We were so close. We were this close to greatness. If you drop to 0 hit points while transformed using Wrath of the Wild, and don't die outright, you can spend a level 4 plus spell slot, no action required. Your hit points then instead change to an amount equal to 5 times the level the spell slot expended. Timeless. You have immunity to the exhaustion condition. As a capstone ability for this subclass, this is actually not that half bad. The first one is always going to be useful in some capacity. The fact that you can heal yourself and the fact that there's really no action required means that you can always do it. So if you're getting constantly knocked to 0, as long as you have the spell slots available, you can use that. Not to mention, I'm always a fan of subclass abilities or class abilities that allow you to use spell slots in unique and interesting ways. So I'm always on board for something like this. It's not overly powerful, and truthfully, if you're using a level 5 spell slot, you're going to be doing a 25 at max, which, I mean, if you roll really well on a level 2 Cure Wounds as a cleric, you can pretty much get that. So it's entirely possible for a cleric to roll that at level 3. Then Timeless being immunity to exhaustion. That is really interesting, having complete immunity to a specific condition. A condition that is fairly rare at this point, especially at this high a level. There's going to be a lot of ways to overcome this condition at level 15 plus. So it is a weird placement for it, but I'm not against it. As the subclass goes, this is actually a decent one. Each ability plays on the one that came before it, and it kind of builds itself within its own narrative. The theming is strong, even though, again, yes, it is kind of hilariously edgy. It does fit perfectly within that 2000s edge aesthetic. It definitely feels like I should be seeing this appear in one of the Underworld movies, if I'm being honest. It has a lot of flavor to it, the mechanics are solid, the narrative is there, and nothing really feels overpowered or underpowered, almost just right. But again, the biggest downfall to this subclass is the fact that it is so heavily tied to Hunter's Mark. You cannot escape Hunter's Mark. When you choose Ranger, Hunter's Mark is being forced upon you. And if you choose this subclass, it's being pushed even further. If this subclass was detached from Hunter's Mark, I think it would be better. Having it be an ability that you can use a number of times per long rest equal to your wisdom modifier, I think would work just fine, and having being a bonus action to activate. Though I won't lie, it is still very strange to have this effectively be a ranger who feels like they're trying to be a warlock. But also, that does kind of lead to a lot of potential narrative elements and things you can use for the campaign. Combining this with a Scion of the 3 rogue, even though crave for the edgiest character of all time, feels thematically relevant and something you can work into your character's story. Same thing goes with a dip into warlock. So have you read through the Hollow Warden Ranger? What did you think about it? Let me know down below. And with that, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all next time.